Hi, boys and girls. I'm going to try to teach this lesson from my computer. I'm hoping that it works, and it's kind of like if we were to have the smartboard in front of us. I'm just hoping for patience, and once we do it more, it'll be easier each time. So, I want you to think back to the beginning of the school year. We read this book called Each Kindness, and it was told from the perspective of the main character, Chloe. And Chloe, unfortunately, was not the nicest person to this new student, Maya. Maya was new to the school, but didn't um she didn't have like the nicest clothes, but she was very friendly to other people. So what I want us to look at is I'm going to share you a passage, and at the end of the passage, I'm going to ask you a question, and our lesson today is going to focus on answering questions and making sure we're answering those questions with text evidence. So let me pull up the passage, and I will read it to you since the volume's a little bit low here. Our teacher, Miss Albert, said, "Say good morning to our new student," but most of us were silent. The only empty seat was next to me. That's where our teacher put Maya. And on the first day, Maya turned to me and smiled. But I didn't smile back. I moved my chair, myself, and my books a little further away from her. When she looked my way, I turned to the window and stared out at the snow. So I want us to focus on this question. I have it here. It says, what do these first few pages show us about the kind of person Chloe is? Now, I did speak to you guys last week about how when we answer questions, in third grade we learned that it's really important to give evidence and explain why we think that. So we're going to use text evidence. So I need to make sure I answer my question. So, what kind of person is Chloe? Well, Chloe is the kind of person who is. I want you to think about what we would say about her. Normally, I would have you turn and talk. So I want you to think. I'll give you like maybe 10 seconds to think, and then I'll start to write my response. So I'm thinking that Chloe is the kind of person I would describe as unfriendly. And now I need to go back and I need to look in the text on what proves to me, it proves that she's unfriendly. So let's see if I look. Well, it says on the first day, Maya turned to Chloe and she didn't smile back, even though Maya smiled at her. And then she moved her seat and herself and her books away from her. And when she looked at her, she turned the other way and stared out the window. So when I answer this, I'm going to make sure, yes, I answered what kind of person she is, but I need to use text evidence now. So in the text, it says that Chloe would not smile at Maya when Maya smiled at her. It also says in the text that Chloe moved her desk, herself, and her books further from Maya when she sat next to her. So I was able to answer my question, what kind of person Chloe was, and support it with text evidence. Today, I want to teach you that experienced test takers, they can read prompts and answer questions carefully by asking themselves two questions. What is the question asking? And where in the text can I find evidence to support my answer? So just what we did in the beginning here. So I'm going to have you read this story, Digging for Dinos. Let me load it here. Digging for Dinos. And then you're going to answer some questions. Well, I'll show you how to do one now, and then I'll have you type the rest and submit it on Unified Classroom. While on vacation with his parents and digging for dinosaur fossils, Benny makes a surprising discovery. Young boys are not the only creatures who lose teeth. Digging for Dinos by Sharnan Simon. Digging for dinosaurs was hot work. Benny sat back on his heels and took a long drink from his water bottle. At first, when Mom and Dad had told him that they were going on a dinosaur dig for vacation, he'd been excited. He'd bragged to his friends that he'd find the skeleton of a never-before-discovered dinosaur, the Benosaurus they'd probably name it. But the real dig wasn't at all what he expected. For starters, he wasn't even digging. No shovels, Dave, the paleontologist in charge, told them. Any dinosaur bones buried here would be within a couple of feet of the surface. We don't want to risk clunking around and breaking them. Then he handed out ice picks and paintbrushes and showed everyone how to chip and brush away sand and dirt, slowly and carefully, a little bit at a time. The most important thing is knowing where to look, Dave said. Some rocks aren't old enough to have dinosaur bones. Other rocks are too old. We studied this area before and found lots of fossils, so I'm hopeful you'll find some too. Well, that had been 2 days ago, and so far the most exciting thing Benny had found was that his front tooth was loose. He wiggled it now. If he couldn't find any dinosaur bones, at least he could show his friends back home that he'd lost another tooth. Dave crouched beside Benny. "How's it going?" he asked. "Okay," Benny said. It didn't seem very nice to say he was bored. "This is pretty slow." Dave nodded. "Yep," he agreed. "It's hard work. Sometimes paleontologists and fossil hunters look for weeks without finding anything, and we hardly ever find a whole skeleton," he added. "You know, Ben, if you're tired of searching, you can always help someone else on the crew." Benny looked around the dry, rocky hillside. Dave's assistants were busy taking photographs and drawing pictures and making charts. Some were using GPS devices to make maps of the area. Some were writing in notebooks. Dave said it was important to take good field notes to record exactly what you did and where you were when you looked for fossils. Benny thought holding the GPS tool might be fun, but he wasn't giving up. "I'll keep looking," he said. "But," he added, thinking aloud, "the picture always shows dinosaurs in swampy areas. Did they live in deserts too?" "Ah," said Dave, "some probably did, but not around here. Millions of years ago this wasn't desert. It was wet and green and lush. The Earth's changed a lot since the time of the dinosaurs." Dave slapped Benny on the back and got to his feet. "Keep up the good work, Ben," he said encouragingly. "I think today will be your lucky day." Pick, chip, brush, and sweep. Benny bent over his patch of rocky ground and carefully cleared away the sand and gravel. When he needed a break, he wiggled his loose tooth. The sun climbed higher and hotter into the sky. He was getting into the rhythm of things. Neither that or the heat was making him drowsy. Either that or the heat was making him drowsy. And then it happened. "My tooth!" Benny said, surprised. He stared down at the dirt. "My tooth!" Benny whomped. "My dinosaur tooth! I found a real, live dinosaur tooth." Dave hurried over to look, careful not to disturb the ground in front of Benny's find. "Well, I'll be," he said. "It's a tooth, all right." "What kind is it?" Benny asked excitedly. "Is it T-Rex, Apatosaurus, Triceratops?" Dave laughed, but he kept studying the fossil in the ground. "Well, Ben," he finally said, "I've seen a lot of dinosaur teeth, but this one is different. I think you may have found one we haven't seen before. Good job." So, like I said, our lesson is focusing on answering questions and making sure we're including evidence. So let's go to a question. We'll go to a new page. Let's look at the question on why does Ben dig for dinosaur bones? And I'm going to highlight this question word, why. When you have the question word why, you're going to be using one or two things in your response. You're going to use either the word because, or you might use the phrase in order to. And when you use either one of those two phrases, then you know you're for sure you're answering the question. And then it says here to use two details from the story to support your answer. So let's answer the first question. So if I look back in the text, well, it said that why was he digging for dinosaur bones? Well, he was digging for dinosaur bones because he wanted to find the skeleton of a dinosaur. He bragged to his friends that he'd find the skeleton of a never before discovered dinosaur. So let's go back. So Benny was digging for dinosaur bones because he wanted to find the skeleton of we can even say of a dinosaur. Now I need to find two details that support my response. So let me look again. Let's see if we can find some details. So let's look. Let's skim through. Well, it says he wanted to brag to his friends that he found a skeleton of a never before seen dinosaur. And look, it says that he thought that it would get named after him. So those are some pieces of evidence that I can include in my response on why he was digging for dinosaur bones. In the text, it says that Benny wanted to brag to his friends that he found the skeleton of a never before discovered dinosaur. It also says that Benny wanted them to name, oh my goodness, name the never before discovered dinosaur after him, the Benosaurus. So if you notice, I made sure to answer my question why, and I used detail 1 from the text to support my answer and detail 2. So what you're going to do is you are going to go onto the Unified Classroom page, and I put a bunch of questions up there for you to answer. Not a bunch, but I think 3. Thinking back to what I showed you here, I want you to be sure that you look at the question and you answer it. You notice that I had to go back into the text to find my answer. And I needed to make sure I answered both parts, the question itself, and I had to support my answer with text evidence. Make sure you were thinking about those 2 questions that I posted before. What is the question asking, and where in the text can I find evidence to support my answer? Once you answer the questions, you could submit it or hand it in on the Unified Classroom, and I will be looking at it by the end of the week to grade it.